Anyone who has lived 7, 8, or 9 decades or more will be able to share lots of stories of resilience. Those of us fortunate enough to have lived long are in this enterprise for the long haul. Donna Markova, in her book entitled I Will Not Live an Unlived Life, states, I will not die an unlived life. I will not live in fear of falling or catching fire. I have tried to live my life like that, succeeding at times and failing at others. When I was 25 years old, I broke my leg skiing in a skiing lesson. The following winter, I managed to fall my first time getting off the chairlift, and I pronounced to myself, there, now I've gotten that out of my system. I continued to ski until we retired and began heading south to Central America and Mexico for the winter. When I was 39, I was studying Aikido, a Japanese martial art. I did a forward roll during practice and managed to sever all the ligaments in my left shoulder. It took a long time to rehab that shoulder. In fact, I still have a click in it. I did go on to earn a first-degree black belt in Aikido, for which I am grateful. 6 years after the Aikido incident, when I was 45, I contracted some kind of virus that affected my vagus nerve. That nerve connects impulses to the heart. I passed out repeatedly, including while being hooked up to wires in the emergency room at Ellis Hospital. There, the personnel could tell that I was passing out because my heart was stopping. The cardiologist strongly recommended a demand pacemaker, which would reportedly turn on only if my heartbeat fell below 50 beats a minute. This was quite a blow to my self-image. I had considered myself to be in great physical shape. I was depressed and unhappy following the operation, and of course, pretty damn scared as well. It did not take me long, however, to decide to run around the block to experience my new reality. And pretty soon, I returned to all of my previous activities. I had to test the demand pacemaker periodically. This involved connecting to a small apparatus that then sent signals to my heart, telling it to beat. I really, really hated this. My heart would be quietly functioning, only to be slammed with an impulse to beat. It felt intrusive, dangerous, and physically uncomfortable to me. But I survived for 12 years, and guess what? The demand pacemaker only functioned when it was being tested. 12 years later, when it began to fail, I was told by a new cardiologist that if I had the same illness at that day, they wouldn't have put in a pacemaker. That was the best practice 12 years prior, but not in 2001. So, at 64, when I fell while out for a morning run in Mexico, somehow I knew that I would survive the dislocated shoulder, my right one this time to even out the issue on the left side. And when I was 69 and I fractured my pelvis in a bicycle accident, after recovery, I did not totally give up bike riding. This past August, I took up pickleball for the first time. All of the instructors had lots to say about being cautious and not falling. So far, so good, except for the pain in my right arm. And I do plan to remain active for the long haul. I've been fortunate to date to not have a progressive or long-term disability. I've benefited from being white, straight, well-educated, and well-off financially. I've been blessed with a partner who has offered me care and encouragement when I've been injured. Each of my physical injuries could have resulted in long-term fear and trembling, dread, and restricted activity. Because whether we're discussing physical woes or political setbacks, resilience for the long term is required. Donna Markova's wisdom really does apply. I will not die an unlived life. I will not live in fear of falling or catching fire.
So I don't know how this election week has been for you. I don't know the particular mix of celebrations, disappointments, hopes, apathy, and relief that you carry with you. I do know that whether a candidate wins or loses, or a ballot measure passes or not, that an election is just the beginning, and that real change happens when we keep showing up, when we're in it for the long haul. In 2020, Unitarian Universalists partnered with voting rights organizations to mobilize voters. This year, we did it again with even more commitment and energy. Over 120 people connected with this congregation joined with others across the nation to you the vote. Being willing to commit to something for the long haul requires resilience and tenacity. Resilience allows us to bend and not break when we experience setbacks and disappointments, because there have been some disappointments. Yes? We may need to take some time to grieve, to recenter, and then choose our next action. We can remember that we can't ever know the whole story or the full effect of our efforts. In her book, Hope in the Dark, Rebecca Solnit writes, "It's always too soon to calculate effect." While we may be able to see short-term results, we don't know how things will all turn out. Waiting for election results is a good reminder of this. Our lives are not like a Hallmark special where everything gets neatly clarified and wrapped up in a big bow with no frayed or dangling pieces. Whether we're committing to political advocacy, tending a garden, a social justice issue, a relationship, your own health and well-being, or a religious community, the long haul can be both beautiful and messy. And we can celebrate when there's some good news and when we can see how our efforts have helped make a difference. And again, we can choose our next action, like taking part in a text bank to Georgia voters. And since we're talking about the long haul today, I want to be clear that it is also okay for some things to end. You might choose to end a relationship that is harmful so that you can say yes to loving yourself, or choose to leave a job that is no longer a good fit so that you have energy to say yes to life in a different way. The long haul may also require us to think about time a little differently. When words like instant, quick, and urgent are sprinkled like salt, we may need to increase our capacity for patience and for process. In the memoir Mango and Peppercorn, Tung Nguyen tells of how she built a house for her parents in her home village in Vietnam. First, she had to learn to make bricks. Tung was young. Her family was poor. And she had a vision of having a home that didn't leak, that would be more comfortable and secure for her family, It was a long haul goal requiring new skills, hundreds of hours, and resilience. There was nothing quick about it. Yet she made one brick at a time and then asked for help to build a house. Perhaps you are writing a book, one page, one word at a time. Maybe you're raising a child. This can only be done 1 hour, 1 day at a time. There are lots of things in our lives that are worth committing to for the long haul, that are not quick or instant in any way. The progress may be slow and circuitous. It may take a long time. Tung didn't tell anyone what she was doing. It may have been easier if she had been able to share and tell someone, "Look, I'm making bricks. Today I made a few more." The long haul is easier if we can celebrate small and large successes with others along the way. We can feel a sense of commitment, a sense of hope, even when we don't know the full arc of how our journey will go. In a sermon published in 1853, Unitarian minister Theodore Parker said, "I do not pretend to understand the moral universe. The arc is long. My eye reaches but little ways. I cannot calculate the curve and complete the figure by the experience of sight. I can divine it by conscience. But from what I see, I am sure it bends toward justice." Ella Baker did all she could to keep that bend going toward justice. She was a Black civil rights and human rights activist whose organizing career spanned more than 5 decades. She strategized, organized, built relationships, and showed up again and again and again and again. She also knew that one of the best ways to strengthen the movement for liberation was to teach and train others, especially young people. She did just that. And she collaborated with others, sometimes leading, sometimes following, taking turns for the revolution, as our friend Reverend Ashley Harand says in her work as the organizing strategy director for the Unitarian Universalist Association. Taking turns is a great way to build our resilience so that everyone gets a chance to participate and everyone gets a chance to rest. Taking turns is a practice for the long haul. In their song dedicated to Ella Baker, called Ella's Song, Sweet Honey in the Rock sing, "That which touches me most is that I had a chance to work with people, passing on to others that which was passed on to me." Working and learning and teaching together are such powerful tools. Playing together is important too. Bill Flanagan and Pete Gernert-Dott have been playing music together for 17 years, and I'm so grateful that their music is part of today's service. Bill has also agreed to share a story that came up as we were planning.
I had a childhood best friend from about age 2 until 6, until my family moved to another town. It was a magical friendship, the type of friendship that could be the focus of a Steven Spielberg movie. So many memories of just silly childhood wonder and fun. Among many other things, Jimmy and I were a musical duo, although we didn't really play instruments. We played tennis rackets until at some point I became the drummer and switched to pots and pans. We performed many concerts for our parents. You know how that goes. And I remember one of our favorite tunes to perform was the classic hit Sugar Sugar by the Archies. That was 1969. After my family and I moved away, Jimmy and I saw each other a handful of times, but eventually the sleepovers became less frequent and we each grew up and had different lives. Fast forward many years, I pursued my geeky school career thing, and Jimmy actually became a real musician. He is now in Jim Messina's touring band. Remember Loggins and Messina and many others, playing keyboards and singing harmony vocals. The Jim Messina tour brought my friend Jimmy to Coho's Music Hall this past Tuesday. My wife Ann and I went to the show, and afterwards, Jimmy and I met up for the first time in almost 50 years. It was magical for both of us. Just imagine looking into the face of your closest childhood friend and reflecting on 50-ish years of life since then. It was so profound. I could see his childhood face and mannerisms juxtaposed on the just about 60-ish year old man that stood in front of me. I'm actually still processing a lot from this meetup, but it's all really good. During our chat, Jimmy remarked that our parents were also great friends, although our fathers have both passed away. Our moms still keep in touch after all these years. In fact, they were almost more excited than we were about Jimmy and I reconnected. Here's to friendships over the long haul.
It is always too soon to calculate effects. The effects of a friendship and tennis racket guitars, and a commitment to say yes to life and yes to love. Sometimes in community, we get to witness the impact that someone has had on others. Last Sunday, I had the gift of being with the coming of age youth to lead one of their class sessions. It was a unit on death and grief. It was already going to be a tender conversation. And it was made even more so when they learned that beloved UUSS elder Ed Couts had passed away just the night before. Many of the youth had been in classes with Ed, who was a stalwart religious education teacher, especially for any curriculum that focused on nature, the earth, and the interdependent web. When Wendy and I had visited Ed and his wife Nancy a couple of weeks ago, his face lit up when he spoke of teaching and how much he loved the kids. It was obvious that love was reciprocated by the youth as tears flowed and memories of Ed were shared. While they remembered different activities, there was a common thread weaving through their stories. Whether it was lying on their stomachs to look very closely at a small patch of ground, did you know there's grass and moss and little bits of leaves and ants all right there? It was amazing. Or the times that they were learning the names of flowers and birds on a hike, or the sweetness of sap when they tapped a maple tree. Each story showed that Ed had helped them experience how amazing and beautiful the natural world is, and to know that we are each a part of it. What an incredible way to pass on a commitment to care for the earth in stewardship. This morning, the 4th through 6th grade class are planting bulbs around the Waters House sign in memory of Ed. May their flowers bring delight and wonder, just as he did. There is so much that we can learn about resilience and strategies for the long haul from our plant neighbors. Trees and flowers, moss, grasses, and shrubs have evolved in different ways. Some are particularly hardy and resilient. Some would even say tenacious. In their poem, Taraxacum, named for the genus of flowering plants commonly called dandelions, minister and poet Teresa Soto writes, even though they are edible, someone decided that dandelions are weeds, stragglers to destroy, to uproot. But dandelions never got the memo, never thought to care. Busy instead with dropping roots, flinging seeds, unfurling shoots, and persistent in digging in that taproot to depths of 2 or 3 average adults end to end, the tiny yellow flower survives. You are no less resilient, reaching both down to the strength that holds you and up to the light, out with your beauty. And you know, having sunk your effort into the cool, damp earth, that while dandelions can be clipped and fought, uninvested in anyone's opinion, they throw their sparkling future into the wind, tomorrow tucked into seeds, and grow all the way back, strong and bowing at the same time. To be in it for the long haul, we may need to be creative and flexible, rooted and rising. No wonder dandelions are so prolific. They create new plants in multiple ways. Seeds, up to 20,000 seeds per plant. And via their roots, which grow new plants anytime a root is injured. You are no less resilient, the poet said, reaching both down to the strength that holds you and up to the light, out with your beauty. Whatever you choose to commit to for the long haul, know that you are not alone. Like the people of the village in our story this morning, we can learn to lean on one another, to sustain one another, and something larger than any one of us alone. For this can be a place where we are nourished, a community in which to share some of our most precious memories, where together we can dream and remember who we want to become. May it be so for the long haul. Salam, shalom, amen, ashe, namaste, and blessed be.